Live with Dragon. 6-month update video and what to expect. So, we're going to be covering 7 points in this video and give you guys a general overview of the last 6 months of the herniated disc. Where did it start? What were some of the phases in between, and then where are we at right now? Okay, so stay tuned if that's something that you find interesting. If you're struggling with a herniated disc and you're not really sure on the timeline side of things, this is obviously my own situation with the timeline. That might be the same for you, but I think if you can stick to some of the basics that I'm outlining in this, I think your timeline can hopefully be condensed and not make this a very long, painful process. So number one, initial symptoms. If you've been following along in some of the videos that I've made in the past, you'll understand that my initial symptoms, this being like my third go around with the herniated disc, was definitely the hardest one I've ever had to overcome in terms of just pain. Pain was unbelievable. Crippling pain. Not able to walk without a limp. Forget having to pick something up or any forward flexion at the hips, just completely what felt like immobilized. And making matters even worse than that, even getting into a position prone supine on the floor, I still felt radiating pain down my legs. Literally wanted to cut my left leg off. The good news, obviously, as the symptoms continued to get better with time, it allowed me to make necessary changes. So phase one, you kind of are left with where you're at. You either have an acute injury or you have an exaggerated worsening condition that happens over a few weeks. And that was kind of my situation. I'm sure that there was something that I was doing from a training standpoint that unfortunately caused a herniated disc, but let's be realistic. When you're lifting as heavy as I was, you're taking a gamble every time you get under such extreme weight-bearing loads. So I'm sure that something happened and then it continued to get worse and worse, and then that landed me into that catastrophic, painful event. So phase one, what I'm recommending you guys is make the necessary work adjustments if needed and or possible. For me, I was a coach, I was a personal trainer. A lot of my clients obviously were in person, right? I did have some online clients at the time, but I made the decision at that time to discontinue training clients and focus on my own rehab. And from a money standpoint, I wanted to continue to pull in similar amounts of money as if I was training people in person. So I went strictly online. I'm not saying that's something that everybody can do. What I'm saying is you might need to make alterations that allow you to continue to heal and don't exacerbate your symptoms, i.e. Sitting down a lot, if you're having to continue to lift, right, hinge, like the disc just needs a little bit of time to recover before you can start scaling up your program. Okay, so weeks 1 and 2, for me, I was completely immobilized. Maybe even week 3. The first month I was pretty much just out of commission completely. So just try to get as much rest and recovery as I possibly could off the disc. Number 2, well, make a plan of action, right? You either have to make the decision to do as much research as you possibly can, read as much documentation as you currently can. Obviously, the web has a ton of books that you can buy, purchase, read, ebooks online, or another good idea would be to work with a coach. There's coaches that have in-person PT experience. There's coaches that have online that are specifically catered towards back rehab protocols, and I think both are good. It just depends on what kind of person you are. If you're a person that can follow a program to the T, maybe if you have bodybuilding experience, that really helps because, obviously when you work with these coaches, they could be from all over Dubai. They're going to send you a plan and you're paying them a service. You just execute the plan. Okay. If you're somebody that needs to be, motivated and you need that like in-person push, I would look for a PT that specializes in lower back injuries, and they're out there. Don't just get a generic PT because they're going to give you generic PT recommendations. You're going to be doing the same thing that a 7-year-old woman is doing in a clinic, and if you have any lifting experience, that's not going to get the job done for you. Next, after the plan of action is created, remember, you are trying to get better. There are going to be setbacks. So flare-ups are going to happen, potentially. I'm not saying that they are definitely going to happen. I will say that they are potentially going to happen. And if they do, don't let that knock you down, okay? I get a ton of messages on Instagram, YouTube about people who have flare-ups and are they hurting themselves further. I don't really think they're hurting us observed. I think that the analogy that I've heard that I like a lot is you have a glass, and when you hurt your back, that glass really gets quite small. And, the trauma or the day-to-day activities that you have to do will fill that glass up with stimulus. If that stimulus overflows the glass, that's when you're going to have that flare up and your back's going to start pushing back against you. Over time, though, as you continue to train, as you get more diligent and stronger and make progressions in the gym or outside of the gym, however you have it, that glass gets bigger and bigger. So the goal here is to make that glass as big as it possibly can be so that you can drive, so that you can do long walks, so that you can pick things off the ground. And that will translate, obviously, into your day-to-day life. So don't get discouraged. Number 4 or 5, losing track of the numbers. Make noticeable pain reductions and strength increases. So it kind of goes back to the PT protocol. When I write programs for everybody, we start at a foundational level, base level movements, things that just are restorative and feel good, probably more in the realm of range of motion and flexibility and mobility. And then once we hit on those key components, we are going to expand and build up back into the gym, or if you have an at-home gym or some kettlebells, some dumbbells, we're going to be doing things that simulate everything that you would do in a day-to-day life, but we're going to build up from the ground up, okay? We're going to figure out where your opportunities are, we're going to figure out where the weaknesses are, and we're going to hammer those weaknesses so they become your strengths. For me, after I went down, noticed substantial weakness in my hamstring, my glute, and flexibility. So, for the first couple months, I was just working on ranges of motion, flexibility, mobility, and they feel good, and the pain factor goes down a lot, okay? But for those of you guys who are training or are used to training and want to get back to training, you can't rely on just simple flexibility and range of motion movements, because when you get under load, or when you are putting load in front of you, behind you, above you, your core muscles and everything in your back need to be as strong as they possibly can be, so that way you don't put yourself into a position where those weaknesses come to a dead halt and put you back into stage 1, okay? So you're literally building yourself up from a foundational level, and that does take time. It's a little frustrating, I get it. Maybe you used to deadlift 500 pounds, now you can't even pick up the bar. But just like when you first started lifting, there is a natural progression of things too, and that happens after the injury. And maybe also as you were training and building up to that 500-pound deadlift, there were some things that were blaring concerns in flexibility and mobility that you kind of ignored. Those can no longer be ignored. They need to be fixed immediately. And then you can go back to lifting heavy weight. 2 more. This is kind of the bodybuilder in me, but monitor weight, lean body mass, and play with nutrition if needed, okay? Guys, I'm an online coach, and the amount of people that in lifestyle clients that typically eat what they should be doing in protein I'd say 90% of people don't eat enough protein, okay? And you see it on social media, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty true, okay? When you really dial it down to the facts, it's if you can track your food, you get a base level amount of protein, that's going to allow you to recover as fast as you possibly can and allow for great, night's rest of sleep. Carbohydrates and fats are going to be played with depending on energy, right? If you're overweight, that's not helping you in terms of the lower back, okay? If you're underweight and you can't put on muscle, also not going to help you when you're trying to fix your back. So it's all an all-encompassing type of situation. So when I say monitor weight, obviously if you're overweight, is that weight going down? If you're underweight, is that weight going up? Is lean body mass going up? Or are you just getting fatter because you're eating more carbs and fats? The wrong things, right? Those are all real possibilities that we need to look at. And that's why, when you work with coaches or people that are have a background in nutrition, they can help you get to those end games. 7. In my situation, right, this is the 6-month mark. Okay, I got injured in April. It's now October, give or take 6 months. For me, I'm in a position now where I'm able to push about 90% of my capabilities in the gym. So I'm back up to a 5-day split, sometimes 6, depending on the schedule. And my recovery is really good, okay? I'm not telling you that I'm 100% pain-free. I'm just telling you that if I'm able to lift 90% of what I was basically doing before injury, that is a very good sign in terms of intensity, not in terms of actual weight. I haven't really tried to go back to, 6-plate hack squats or, whatever the case may be, like 4 or 5 plates on the actual squat itself. I'm not there yet. What I'm trying to say is the intensity that I'm doing in the gym, knowing that I'm not going to aggravate my back is back up to about 85, 90%, which is a really good feeling because now I can actually push myself. And one of the response factors that I'm seeing too is my weight is now going back up. My lean muscle tissue is going back up. And I've adjusted nutrition because I'm starting to get really hungry again. So if I'm getting hungrier, I'm training harder, the muscle is going to come back and I'm going to continue to get stronger. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? I told you guys I was training about 90%, but I'm obviously not where I was from a total strength standpoint. I'm just able to have a little bit more fun in the gym. Typically, I'm able to drive for longer durations, 2 hours before I'd probably get a little bit sore. Standing up has never been an issue for me. I'm able to move around a lot, pick up my son, pick up heavy things every now and then. The only time that I tend to get a little bit sore is if I'm seated for too long, like past 2 hours, or at the end of the day and I've done like a lot of leg movements. That's when I start to feel a little bit of sciatica on the left side. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The pain is still there, but it's a very low, almost like a low humming type of situation. It's there, you know it's present, but it's not something that's all encompassing, all on top of mind and ruining like my mental health. Okay, which, you know, if you're aware of the pain, it's all consuming. You guys know what the deal is. I don't need to explain that. So all in all, am I saying that this is going to be something that takes 6 months to heal? Not necessarily. I'm just telling you that if you have a plan of action, if you're diligent on that plan of action, you stick to it and you eliminate some of these outside factors or even behaviors that are holding you back from having that pre-injury spine, I think that you can make a lot of progress. Ultimately for me, I knew that this is probably going to take a year to heal by how bad the injury was. So if I can get it down to 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, I feel fantastic because then I can get back on track with my goals, training, bodybuilding, training clients in person, all that fun stuff. So hopefully this gives you guys an idea of what a plan of action could look like, how long the duration and timeline could be. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, as always, feel free to put them on the channel. And I don't think I've ever asked this before, but subscribing and watching the video for as long as you possibly can really helps me as the creator, and I want to continue to make videos for you guys. So any help is much appreciated. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time. Dragon, ouse.